You know that feeling, right? When your brain is just fried completely, like you physically cannot absorb one more piece of information. Well, let's get into that because today we're going to look at a really powerful, kind of new way to think about how our brains work. What if your brain isn't some computer you just fill with data, but a muscle that you actually have to train? Yeah, and this quote right here, it just hits the nail on the head. We treat our minds like they have this infinite capacity, right? We just expect them to, I don't know, figure it all out on their own. But here's the thing. They have a breaking point, and without the right kind of training, they don't get stronger. They just burn out.
So what does that state of siege even look like in our day-to-day lives? I mean, we're constantly feeding the brain, pushing it to perform, but we are totally missing the most crucial step in the whole process.
Okay, think about a typical day. First up, you've got the lessons. A constant bombardment of input, right? From school, from work, from all those notifications on your phone, just demanding that your brain learns and absorbs. And then we pile on even more. You've got tutors, mentors, online courses. We just keep adding to the stack of information. And if that wasn't enough, we top it all off with this just immense weight of expectations and pressure to succeed. But, and this is the key, there's never any training. So that's the real issue, right? We give the brain all this information, all this pressure, but we never, ever train it on how to actually handle that load. It's like loading up a barbell with hundreds of pounds for someone who's never been taught how to lift properly. What happens? You don't get stronger, you get injured. So what happens when you consistently overload an untrained muscle? Well, it starts to show some serious signs of strain. Let's talk about the warning signs your brain is sending you when it's hitting its absolute limit. And I bet some of these symptoms are going to feel really familiar. When the brain gets overloaded, it starts to feel scattered, almost like physically overheated. You start forgetting important stuff. You get irritated at the smallest things. You find yourself just hiding in your phone or getting into pointless arguments. Or maybe you just shut down completely with a hard, I don't want to. And it is so crucial to get this. This is not laziness. It's a defense mechanism. And this is what leads to that really harsh inner voice, right? That voice that says, I can't, or I'm stupid, or just yells at you, I forgot again. And a lot of the time, that's met with frustration from the outside world, which just makes that feeling of failure even worse. But what if we're looking at this whole thing completely backwards? Okay, and this right here, this is the turning point. This is the core reframe. It requires a huge shift in how we think about these struggles. It's got nothing to do with a character flaw or not being smart enough. So that brings us to the big question we all ask ourselves in those moments of total frustration. So, is the brain just weak? Am I just weak? And the answer is a simple, but honestly, a revolutionary no. The problem is not that your brain is weak. The problem is that it's just untrained. And that little distinction, it changes absolutely everything. This comparison just lays it out so perfectly. I mean, think about it, right? An untrained body gets tired easily, while an untrained brain gets scattered easily. An untrained body is way more prone to injury. An untrained brain is prone to burnout. And when you put an untrained body under a lot of strain, it aches. When you put an untrained brain under strain, it hides from pain. The parallels are they're impossible to ignore. So if the whole problem is just a lack of training, what does the solution look like? Well, the really good news, is that just like any other muscle, the brain can be strengthened. This transformation from that place of pain to a place of real power, it's totally possible. And when you start training the brain to handle that overload, the results are, you can feel them. They're tangible. People who are really struggling, they start to pull themselves together. They actually learn how to focus their attention. They start remembering things way more effectively. And you see them begin to speak with this incredible confidence, all because they're starting to trust their own minds again. And listen, the goal here isn't just to get back to normal. No way. It's about building true cognitive resilience. It's about shattering your old limits and becoming mentally stronger than you ever imagined was possible. All right, so let's boil all this down to the one single, most important message to take away from all this. It's all about a fundamental shift in how you see things. This right here, this is the mantra. This is what you take with you. The next time you feel that burnout creeping in, that frustration, that urge to just quit, I want you to repeat this to yourself. Not weak, not stupid, not lazy, just untrained. When you start seeing it that way, it totally transforms the effort. Cognitive training stops feeling like a chore and it becomes an investment. It really is a workout, not for your body, but for your future.
And that leaves us with one final question to chew on. Because look, it's easy to hear this analogy and nod along, right? But it's way harder to actually put it into practice. So, if your brain really is a muscle, how are you training it today?